morning.
Morning.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Marguerite.
Morning.
And 2:55, so we have 5. You guys are all here early and promptly in the time. Annie Mercer at the bottom right on your screen. She's handling the Zoom call for Ken Gudahan, who's away today. And that's who she is.
You're on mute, Christine.
A lot of people.
I knew I was on mute. I have people here, so I was waiting for them to leave.
That's fine. Yeah.
I have some family in town, so the dog doesn't like when other people are talking.
All right. I'll let you know when you have to unmute.
All right. They're going for a walk, so.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, Digger. Morning, everybody. Mike.
Morning.
Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
We got Christine, the deputy there, enforcing the law. Good deal.
Yep.
Good morning.
And Ken Swanner is breaking the law.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
David, I told Ken that around 10:15 I'll be going on the phone and heading into town, okay?
I saw that. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody have a good 4th of July? I hope.
It was
Yes.
very quiet on Captiva, actually.
Wasn't too bad. You know, the weather, I think, scared a lot of people, but it actually turned out reasonably well.
Yeah, no. It's John Jensen.
Good morning.
Good
Good
job.
morning.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Eight 58. We have 2.
Are you up north? You're up north, Dave?
No, I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Hey,
Because they are elevating my home, and so I have to, be here
Yeah, you want to be.
as we make decisions. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
You going to the gym and doing your step training down, you have to go up and down the stairs?
It makes a difference, I've
Yeah.
been on the ground for, a long time.
Yeah.
It's a difference. I might have to do that, Tony.
Next,
Mine at the office here, so it keeps me going.
yeah. Next step will be an elevator.
Yeah. Hopefully not immediately.
Yeah, not in the near future.
I like down better than, well, actually going down is scarier than going up, in certain ways.
Yeah.
Going down. Yeah. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. And here's Sandy. Good morning, Sandy. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 8th, 2025 meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. I'm just going to take a roll call. I'm David Mintz. I am here. Vice President Bruce McDonald advised us that he's working and he won't be available. So I will go through the list. Sandy Stillwell-Youngquist here. I see her. Marguerite Thiel-Meville,
Yeah, I'm here.
Ken Suarez,
Here.
John Wade. I don't see him. Michael Bennett,
Here.
John Rosen,
Here.
John Hinton,
Yeah, here, David.
Linda Laird. He's not here. Tony Lappy is here. Okay, so we have a couple people probably on vacation, but we certainly have a quorum. The first thing is for the approval of the minutes of June 8th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Do I have a second?
second.
John, okay. Any comments on the minutes?
No.
There's one comment I have, in two places on the minutes. It talks about a missed update meeting, both with respect to stormwater management and with respect to, it looks like identifying flood issues or infrastructure issues. I don't know what Ken meant by the a missed update. So when he comes back from wherever he is, I will ask him just to check the recording to make sure that accurately reflects what was said. I don't know what meetings were missed. I don't remember that discussion. So, all right. Well, with that caveat, does everybody, we have a motion on the floor? Would people like to approve the minutes?
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Great. I don't think there's any objections. The first order of business is from Deputy Christine Zumbrum, and she is here with us she's on my top left of the screen. I don't know where she is on everybody else's. But Christine, do you have a report?
Just a couple things. I mean, our 4th of July, we were busy. Just some isolated issues, nothing. Your typical thing during the holiday is parking is always an issue. But we just wanted to discuss some other things because they did talk a lot about the weather for the 4th of July. And I do think that scared a lot of people away, at least for that Friday. But with these summer storms, we just want people to be mindful of the potential flooding. It just seems like any heavy rains that we have on Captiva now, it floods the roads rather quickly. So, you'll see issues. Obviously, you could have issues with hydroplaning. A lot of stalled golf carts we were seeing. Additionally, like during that flooding, pedestrians, then they, of course, have to walk in the roadway. So we just want to make sure people just stay alert and just drive with caution. There are areas on Captiva that didn't flood before that flood now. So you just have to be really careful. Also, with these storms, what we're seeing is a lot of people just staying on the beach and in the water during some of these storms, and they've been very electrical. Lightning strikes do happen. And of course, the water has currents and just can pose a risk for the swimmers. So we just also want to reiterate just to be safe and careful when you're on the beach. It doesn't take long to get swept out. So, some things that we want to make sure people are doing also is just securing their property with more visitors coming. That's also very important. There have been a few recent thefts in the area, and not just Captiva, just some of the upper islands as well. So what we've been seeing are some lower units, specifically Yamaha. So boats that have been on lifts, they're stealing the lower units. These in particular have been Yamaha. Yamahas are very easy from what I'm being told are the easiest to take. So we just want to make sure. We had some fishing rods as well that were taken recently. So if you have security cameras, it's just a good time to check to make sure that they're working properly. And if you don't have any, it also might be worth considering adding some for some peace of mind. you know, even if it doesn't catch something on your property, it could catch someone coming or going from a neighboring property. And just having some type of a suspect can really help solve these crimes. We've had very good luck with video footage solving crimes. So here and on North Captiva. So just one last thing I have is we've just recently received some calls about coyotes. I'm sure everyone has noticed there's been a lot more that have been around recently. We're here to help with that. But if it's not an emergency and you just have some questions on how to live with them, FWC's website has a lot of useful information on how to live with them, suggestions on how to try to deter them. They refer to it as hazing. And I think they also, I know they have a licensed companies on there who you can contact for help with those if hazing just doesn't seem like an option for you and you just need to get them off your property for whatever reason. And that's it. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for the deputy? Okay, I have two questions for you, Christine. First off, you said there are areas that are flooding now on Captiva that weren't flooding before. Can you just give us an idea what areas you're talking about? Yes.
So we know like by the green flash, it's always flooded there during the rains, but now we're seeing like if you are going north, kind of where South Seas Provisions has their service entrance to the back of their buildings, like their registry, that area was flooding, which I don't recall that flooding just during just like a regular rainstorm. That was flooding a little bit. And then also, you know, past Jensen's Curve, you know, because now we have those rocks and the dune systems that they put, it seems like the water doesn't really have anywhere to go. So that stretch there is also, I would say south of that is there are areas in that whole stretch there between the S curves where there are some areas of flooding. So if you're not paying attention, especially at night, you know, people are going and they're hitting those big areas of water. So it's not super deep in that area, green flash area, and even in the village area, some of that gets deep, but the areas in that stretch there between the S curves, there's certain areas that have enough water where it can pose a hazard if these people are driving a little fast. And the golf carts, it doesn't take much for the golf carts for the batteries to get wet and stall out. So
We're asking because we're in the process of a stormwater management study. And so any information we get about areas that are flooding is very helpful to us. And I was remiss, I mean, we introduced all the panel members. People can see that Jay Brown is, his visage is on the screen.
Yep,
And
good morning.
we're going to, hopefully in the future, anyone who's chairing a committee of the panel who will have presentations to make, we want to include them as on the screen so people can see them and get to know them. So that's why Jay is here, and in the future we'll have other chair people of committees that will also be visible to people because they'll be given reports. The second question I have for you, Christine, is you mentioned Yamaha engines disappearing. Did that occur on Captiva? Did I miss that?
we had one on Captiva and one on USEPA.
Okay.
So
we had one theft on Captiva of an engine.
well, it's just the lower, actually, I think there might have been two on USEPA, but I know I dealt with two on Captiva. It's just the lower unit. So it's just basically the propeller, the prop, you know, it's not the whole motor. So it's just the bottom part. And apparently, you know, you can just take that, just a couple bolt screws, whatever, and it just drops right down. So,
that's interesting. Okay.
yeah. So, and with the boats being on a lift, it's easy for them to pull up to just and take it and go. So the fishing rods, I mean, are always something because people leave them on their boats. And, you know, I know we don't want to have to take everything in all the time, but, you know, the boats are no different than vehicles. You know, you just like you don't want to leave a laptop sitting on the seat in an unlocked car. You probably don't want to do the same. Boat.
I think it just it could tempt somebody
Exactly.
sitting
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Christine?
Yeah, I have one. So Christine, I had received a few text messages and calls from people inside South Seas that have reported that if they are driving their personal golf cart and parking it in an area that is not authorized, or they're not a guest of the resort, they're being approached by resort staff saying that their vehicle, either they're not allowed to park there, and in one case that it will be towed, or they will be cited for trespassing. Can you give me an idea of how the sheriff's department would react to something like that? And does South Seas have a permit to disable a vehicle at this time?
So as far as whether they have a permit or not, I mean, I wouldn't know the answer to that question. I just do know that they were in the process. I know there's some paperwork they have to fill out, and I believe that has to go through the sheriff's office. Whether that process has been approved or not, we don't get notified of that. So I don't know the answer to that question. I could probably find out. I'm sure there's a way to find out. As far as the parking, I mean, obviously we don't deal with the parking issue, any private property parking issues within the resort. So if somebody is, I'll just use YOLO. If a YOLO golf cart is parked in, or even an owner, well, I don't even know about an owner, but let's use a YOLO cart. If a YOLO cart is parked somewhere where they designate just South Seas parking, that's not something we're going to get involved in. We're not enforcing private property parking violations like that. Nor would we.
What about a trespass complaint?
So as far as trespass, we've dealt with trespass within the resort in the past. So an example I'll give you is a boater coming in and tying up to, just docking in there and getting off to go to the beach. Obviously, that's a trespass issue. Owners, golf carts on resort property with the amenities, I guess there is a trespass issue, and I'll be honest with you, that's something that I'm going to talk to Sergeant Zeltman about, because I do think there are some gray areas there, and I just don't feel like I'm in a position that I can speak to that yet, until we speak to our legal department, because it's a very unique situation there. You have a resort that's not open to public, people that have access to certain areas. So I absolutely don't feel comfortable making a response on that until we get some clarification. I think that might be. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Okay, so I mean, I think it's a valid question that you're asking there. I just don't think I have all the information on how to respond to that yet. But my plan was Sergeant Zeltman was off, so I was going to reach out to him when he came back, which he's back today. So I will talk to him when we get. I'm actually off this week, but I'm gonna talk to him anyway, because I do think that's something that will probably come up in the near future.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
sure, you understand that better than anybody. Yeah, if you could get that question answered, and also whether they are permitted to disable a vehicle, that would be very helpful. I don't know if there is, I'm sure there is a public way to understand if they have a permit to disable a vehicle, and that would be good to know. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there probably is. I mean, I know a permit has to be obtained. I know that it does get sent to our traffic unit, and they go through the process of approving it. After that process, I really don't know what it is. I don't think that's happened yet, but I can definitely try to find the answer to that.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions for the deputy? Seeing none, thank you very much, Christine,
All
and
right.
we'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Whoever you co-assigned to be here. Okay. Next on the agenda is Fire Chief Jeff Powell.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Couple quick notes. If you're just a heads up, if you're down in the Rubel area of Sanibel, kind of this week, we're doing a bunch of training down there on an acquired structure in conjunction with Sanibel Fire. So if you see some smoke in the area down there, coming from one of the houses. That's just us training. There should be signs out that kind of alert you to it as well, but just kind of give you guys a heads up. So we'll be down there majority of this week in the mornings and whatnot, doing some training. So just a heads up on that. Christine kind of mentioned the weather. So the next couple updates, I'll just mention it. We'll get the first one out of the way. Hurricane season. I said it last one. I'll say it again. If you're not prepared yet, please go ahead and get there. If you need one of the all hazards guides that the county puts out, we have a bunch of them here at the fire station. So feel free to stop by and pick one of those up. Lists a bunch of resources, county contacts, things, do's and don'ts, those types of things. So feel free to stop by anytime and pick one of those up if you'd like one. And then the other two weather ones. So she mentioned lightning and beaches and whatnot. So we have had one house got struck by lightning this past month. And I'm sure you've seen plenty of news lately that's talked about all the people who have been struck by lightning lately. So, the old adage, thunder roars, go indoors. Please follow that. Obviously, you can't prevent your home from getting struck by lightning, but if you do, call us. We'll come out. We'll check it out. Make sure that there is no fire. It is common that they cause problems like that. So just be mindful of that. And then these couple of days, we've really noticed heat-related issues. Been having calls and dehydration and heat-related outside people, not being hydrated. So make sure you're in the shade, make sure you're dressed appropriately, and make sure you're drinking water, electrolytes, Gatorade, all of the above. We've noticed a big increase in those types of calls the last couple of days. So summer is here. Be safe, be hydrated, and be careful with the weather. Lastly, I'll just mention, I'm sure you guys are all well aware of turtle violations and lights and who's getting them and who's in charge of it. So I did have a conversation about 2 weeks ago now. Well, I had a couple, but I tried to see if she would attend this meeting and have that conversation with all of you. And she was working on it with county management and has not gotten back to me. So I guess I can leave that in your safe and competent hands, David. And I'm sure you are already on top of it more than I have, but I did what I could do from my end. So it doesn't sound like it was very successful, but if she gets back to me and she wants to attend, I'll reach out to you guys and see what you guys can coordinate with her.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeff from the panel? Okay. Jeff, I have one question for you. A lot of houses are being reconstructed and renovated and everything after the hurricanes. Is there something that you recommend with respect to lightning rods on Captiva? I mean, do houses have lightning rods? Should they be installed, et cetera?
So not very many residential homes do them. I don't know if it's a cost consideration or it's just kind of overlooked. I'm not really sure. We do have them here at the fire station. Our station has been struck by lightning, and they obviously did their job because we didn't have a whole bunch of damage. So they do work. Obviously, a lot of our homes are quite large and expensive out here. So if I was building a house, I would look into them, but I couldn't tell you the cost benefit of them on whether or not you would want to do it. But like I said, from personal experience, we do have them here at the fire station, and they have worked. So obviously, everybody knows we do get a lot of lightning in these summer months and these summer storms. It's not hard to look out and see all the lightning we get. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably worth looking into.
Okay. Tony, you have a question?
No.
Oh,
Good.
okay. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Okay. CEPD, John Wade is not with us today. The only thing I know, and maybe somebody can fill us in, Linda Lairder's not here either, and she's not on the CEPD anymore. But my understanding is that beach renourishment is still scheduled for mid-August, that there's going to be some provisioning of equipment in sometime this month in July, and that it is proceeding on schedule. I haven't heard anything different. I know there's a CEP meeting scheduled, I believe, for July 17th. And so we'll probably people can get an update on the beach renourishment at that July CEPD meeting. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say about that at this point. Okay, SCCF, again, and I think Matt was on vacation, and so we're not going to have a report from SCCF today, but we will make sure we have one at the August meeting. The next thing on the agenda is a state legislative and county code enforcement update. Yeah, I just wanted to review a couple of things that have been in the news that people may or may not know of. The state has just, and the governor has just signed Senate Bill 1622. Governor DeSantis just signed it. And it basically, and it's complicated, but in 2018, the state legislature passed a law that made it more difficult for local municipalities, including Lee County, to declare certain areas as customary use for beach access. In other words, if there is, if people have used the beach for a long time, but it's officially on private property, and this occurs on Captiva in a lot of places. Back in 2018, after that, for the county to pass an ordinance to support customary use so that people could use the beaches, they would have to follow some very complicated procedures, including going to court and getting the court to agree that there was customary use here, and therefore people would have the right to cross over that private property. From the news reports, it looks like this was passed in 2018 when Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee purchased a house in Florida in Walton County and lobbied the Florida legislature to restrict governments from enforcing customary use ordinances. And the Florida legislature passed that, making it much more difficult for local governments to allow people to cross over private property on the beaches where they normally walked. Huckabee then sold his house in 2021, and the legislature just reversed that customary use doctrine. And now a county can, without going into court, declare an area of customary use if that's been the use by the public, and they don't have to go to court to get a determination of property rights. And that if a private property owner disagrees with that, they have to go to court. So the burden of proof has been reversed. And so the intent of this is to allow people who had walked the same stretch of beach for generations, that now they can't be told that they are trespassing. And that was a change that was signed by Governor DeSantis just a couple of weeks ago. And it also makes it easier to establish erosion control lines for beach renourishment projects because it puts the burden on a property owner rather than the government to say that you're not allowed to use this beach for renourishment. So in any case, that looks like, and I may have it wrong, but that looks like that's a good thing for access of the public to use beaches on Captiva from Blind Pass to the end of South Seas, if that's that they would be able to just walk the beach without somebody claiming they are trespassing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that DEP just issued a request for grants from July 7th to September 1st, accepting proposals for resiliency and for sewer conversion or septic conversion and various other resilient proposals. And they have about $460 million that they're going to be giving away. And so I just raised that, let you know that that's there. I'm not sure we can do anything with it at this point because you have to be shovel ready. And I don't think we have shovel ready projects yet, but I just wanted people to be aware of that. The third thing is that Lee County, the Board of County Commissioners, just passed an ordinance to prohibit smoking and vaping at county parks and public beaches. So there no longer can be vaping or smoking on the Captiva public beaches, which on Captiva, that really is only Allison Hagerup and the beach at Andy Rossi Lane, that 100 feet at the end of Andy Rossi Lane. Those are the only official county beaches on Captiva, other than the I believe it's still the kayak launch right to the left of McCarthy's, but I don't know how many people go to vape there. But in any case, just so you know that no longer can we smoke a vape at Hagerup or at the end of Andy Rossi Lane. The other thing that was in the news is Lee County is facing a $13 million funding deficit for the county, and it's unclear at this time, from what I've read, what projects are going to be put off or whether they're going to be able to fund them through the reserves. So anyway, that there is a fiscal crisis to some degree in Lee County at this point. My understanding is that the tax assessor has increased the property values on both Captiva and Sanibel, which is going to create greater revenues for the county and even for the city. So that may affect the fiscal situation. The other thing two other things I want to bring to your attention. One is we received a letter from a person who I think he's a captain of a boat who has been very concerned about what he's calling is unregulated commercial activity from the Green Flash dock, claiming that there are a lot of unlicensed, possibly captains and large numbers of them, he claims, leaving from the docks in the morning because the Punta Rossa docks are no longer available, and that it's causing a problem both in terms of ecology and just generally affecting the Roosevelt Channel and even Redfish Pass. And he's very concerned about it, and he raised it in a letter to the panel. I don't know how accurate it is at this point. When I received the letter, it was in between meetings. I went down to Green Flash at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, 2 mornings, once on a weekend and once during the week. And there was not a single boat there that was picking up people. So with your permission, I'm just going to bring this letter to the owners of Green Flash or the management of Green Flash and just see if there's any knowledge of it or any concern about it or anything. I just had to acknowledge it because the panel did receive this letter. And again, I don't know if it's accurate. And I just I wanted the person who sent it to us to know that we received it, and we will pass it along and see to what extent there is an issue here.
David, I have a comment on that if you want it.
Please.
I believe the Green Flash allows fishing boat captains to pick up clients at the Green Flash docks, and they charge a fee to the clients or to the fishing boat captains for picking people up, at their dock. So that may be what's being referred to, but I would think most charter fishing boat captains would be, licensed, captains. But so I don't know, maybe that's what he's talking about. The Green Flash has adopted that practice now.
Yeah. I'm gonna take this letter.
I think it'd just be a matter of calling Tim up, or I can do it if you want me to and get the facts.
I'll talk to you about it after the meeting, and we'll just approach this as we always approach it with our Captiva commercial ventures, which is basically to try to figure out if there's a problem. If there is, cooperate and make sure that it's being done right and everybody's happy with it, etc. So again, I have no idea that there's anything wrong here at all, but we did receive this. You gave us some interesting information, Jay. So I'll talk to you, and we'll go to talk to Tim, and we'll see what the issue is, if it is an issue.
Right.
Okay. The last thing is that there is a new head of code enforcement at the county. And I think we've heard about it in relationship to the turtle lighting. And maybe Jay, I know, has been involved in that to some degree, but my understanding, there's been about 100 violations issued about turtle lighting on Captiva.
All right, I was gonna make some comments on that, David. When it came to my portion of the agenda, if you want me to talk about that now, I could.
Why don't we just talk about it now? It seems to be, and Jeff Powell mentioned it, and why don't we just talk about that a little bit? Because it also applies to some other Lee County codes other than turtle lighting. But go ahead, Jake.
Um, we were cited this year for violating turtle lighting policy with our interior lights in our home. And we had always thought, since our home had been constructed with turtle glass, that we would never have any issue with the interior lights in our homes affecting turtle nests. And if you look at the code, it says that you cannot have artificial lighting that illuminates turtle nests. So then the question becomes, well, what does illuminate mean? It's the view of the person that's enforcing the codes now that illuminate means that if she can see a light coming from your house to the beach, that you're violating the code. And as a result of that interpretation, there's been a dramatic increase in the number of turtle light violations this year versus what happened historically on the island. We were cited as repeat offenders, which means we had to go to a hearing and possibly be assessed fines. We told the person that even though we had turtle glass, based on her recommendation, we would put film in all of our windows so that we would be reduced. Turtle glass has 45% light transference, to the beach. I'm not sure if I'm saying that exactly right. But she said that if you had glass that only allowed 15% light transference, you probably wouldn't be illuminating the beach anymore. So we told her that we were in the process of putting film in all of our beachfront facing windows that would reduce it to 15%. She reported that at the hearing and recommended that we not get any fines for our violations since we were, putting up this 15% light transference. The person who's doing that just happened to walk into my study here as they're about halfway through the job. And so they have installed some of the film on the windows now. I went out last night and looked at our house from the beach, and you can still see lights coming from our beach, from our house, even with this film up. So I asked her, what happens if I put up this film up and you can still see lights, coming from my interior of my house to the beach? And she said, don't worry about it. I won't see any lights. Well, I went out last night. I can still see light coming through windows that have this 15% film applied to them. I did write her a nice email saying that it'd probably be a great idea if she came to a future panel meeting and explained, how she was, enforcing the code now and what the remedies were. And she has, as of yet, has not responded to that email. So that's what I know so far.
Yeah.
David, in a similar situation with a couple of my clients, both of them have rental properties right off the Gulf of Mexico. And, obviously it's very, very difficult to control. Tony knows this better than anybody, can control the rental guests and what they do. And so, you've got this commerce issue, and then you have this code enforcement issue, and they're clashing big time. And the code enforcement officer, who I've become to know fairly well as of late, is
Are you talking about Paula?
Yeah, Paula.
Yeah,
Paula's
okay.
about as strict as it gets. There is no gray. It's either black or white, or there's either light or no light. Period. There's just, and so I almost think that we have to contact somebody at the county to go, WTF, guys. I mean, it's gotten to the point of being really ridiculous. Both of my clients had hearings before Donna Marie Collins, the hearing examiner, and one, thank goodness there weren't guests in at the time of reinspection, so that one passed, but the other one failed. So now there's another 30-day grace period before they start issuing fines. But it's really gotten ridiculous. And look, I'm all for protecting the turtle nest, but it just seems to me that there is this conflict between, especially in the case of having rental guests in a home that's on the Gulf of Mexico that are paying, they're paying taxes. They're paying a local county tax, to stay there. So I don't know. I don't know what can be done, but something needs to happen here.
Yeah, well, let me weigh in a little bit here. I think one of the first problems is that there seems to be some confusion or lack of clarity as to what is required and not required, both with new construction and with existing homes. And it seems to me that the current code isn't giving people enough information where they can comply without committing violations. And so I think we speak to the county and we need to get this first clarified as to what the rule is. Second, we have to make sure that enforcement is based on some objective rather than subjective criteria, not when you happen to walk out or what light you happen to have on at a particular time, but there's got to be some objective criteria in determining whether there's a violation or not. And then the third thing is we have to make sure that whatever the code is and however clear it is and however you determine violations, it has to be a correct balance between the needs of the turtles and the needs of the community, whether they own or rent. So I think we have a little work to do here. And I think we can talk to the county, we can talk to Paula, we can talk to people that Paula works for and explain the situation. And I think my experience with the Department of Community Development is they've been very responsive as of late to the needs of Captiva. So I think we should be able to get some traction there. So the other thing that I was told, and I mentioned this to Jay, is when I spoke to the new head of enforcement for the county, and what I was told is that the number of violations this year are basically the same number of violations that were found by the code enforcement officers in the prior years. However, the county in the prior years, after the violations were found, never enforced them and never created documents to send them to hearing. So they just laid there until after the turtle season, and then they were disposed of. And there was never any enforcement on South Seas. I don't know if that's accurate, but this is what I've been told. And so what we have now is enforcement and hearings about violations that were not different than they were in the past. Again, this is for further discussion with the county.
That is grossly inaccurate, David. I can tell you right now that over the years that I've been in this business, when there has been a violation, there is always in a violation that you get from code enforcement, they always give you a reinspection date. Okay, and if the reinspection date, they come out on the reinspection date and they see that the issue has been abated, they close the case. That's the way it works in code enforcement. So I would say that is a load of crap that he is handing you, or if it's a she, I don't know who the new person is, but I can specifically tell you in cases that I have been involved with over the years that upon the reinspection, the lighting issue has been abated, so they've simply closed the violation. This year, it is, I don't know if she's inspecting more often and finding these violations, or they're just getting a little bit more strict, or the fact that the vegetation on the beach has not grown to a point where it's shielding some of the light, which is obviously happening in multiple areas within Captiva. But regardless of all that, there has to be some kind of a balance, and there is not a balance right now. And I would say that people who are close to this issue need to have some kind of communication with somebody that's higher up than Paul, because I agree with you that, in her opinion, some of this is subjective. It's just ridiculous in some cases. And I'm not saying that there aren't violators that need to be cited, but Jay's a perfect example of trying to abate a situation that I feel may not work with your film, Jay. I mean,
Yeah.
if she sees light.
Well, based on what if she's going to be, if I can see a light, from the beach, you're violating the code if that's her standard. If seeing a light means you're illuminating the nest, I'm still illuminating the nest after undergoing a very significant expense, based on her recommendation as to what I should do.
If I was your lawyer, you would be a very bad client. In case, I think we've sort of laid out the confusion and the issues, and I will reach out to the community development and see if we can get someone coming to the panel meeting and figure out a way we can clarify this issue in a way that makes sense for everybody. But I agree, it's obviously causing anxiety and confusion among the people who live on Captiva.
David, I think I copied you on my email to Paula,
You
telling
did.
her, and I think that email is just a very reasonable request. And if it's not Paula, somebody should, tell us what's going on.
Great. And also, we may want to speak to, I know SCCF is not involved in enforcement, but they certainly know a lot about turtles. And it seems to me that this is a perfect opportunity for SCCF to give us some information as to what lighting really impacts the turtle nesting season and what doesn't, and what we should be concerned about objectively as opposed to subjectively. So I'll reach out to SCCF also and see if they're willing to at least give us some insight into this issue, because they do move the turtle nests and they do monitor the beach.
Yeah. Have we ever seen turtles crossing Captiva Drive to get to these houses? That have lights in them? No.
No, I don't think there's any indications of that. Of course, my source of that is my property manager, Mark Wells, who was involved in enforcing the turtle codes for years and years.
Yeah.
And he says what's going on now is ridiculous. And he said in all of his years of enforcing the codes, never saw evidence of a turtle crossing Captiva Drive.
Yeah.
I've never heard or seen evidence of, you would think that it would make news if you had a population of dead baby turtles around the beach.
Right.
Right.
I would think so, yeah.
I think the other thing I wonder about is the fact that, is she looking at the light standing out there, or is she looking at it from the vantage point of a turtle?
Yeah.
She's standing on her cart and looking. And I've made the point that the turtle's eyes are probably 6 inches off the ground. You ought to be looking to see if you can see the light from there, but she didn't accept that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You're about 4 inches too much on that measurement.
Yeah.
Well, the county has been very lax in terms of code enforcement on Captiva. We have a proliferation of signs in places
Right.
that shouldn't be there. And, they asked me about that, and I'm going to ask them to enforce them. I mean, we have, spray foam insulation signs at every corner, and it's not good for Captiva to do that. But, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that the community development and is enforcing codes, but we got to make sure the codes are meaningful and they're the right codes. And so that's what we have to sort out at this point. That's my opinion on it. And so we will do that. Anything else on codes or enforcement or legal updates?
David, one question, and this is a little bit off the chart. The sign that we used to have, Welcome to Captiva, the very nice sign, has been broken. Is there any update on that? Can you give me, or do we have to do it, or monies, or what happened?
My understanding is that the CCA noticed that, and obviously, and my understanding is that they are going to be discussing replacing it. I don't know exactly when, but they feel it's, at least I spoke to one person at CCA, and they thought it was its responsibility to make sure that that gets properly replaced. Yeah, maybe we should build, I'm not sure if Sanibel, when they were redoing Turner Beach, whether or not some of the trucks created I don't think it was destroyed by the hurricane. I think it may have been destroyed in some of the renovation on Turner Beach, but I'm not sure.
Could be.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, David.
But if CCA is not going to take responsibility for that, I'll bring it back to the panel. And then we will figure out how to make sure it gets replaced because it should be there. That's a good point, Tony. Thank you. Anything else on enforcement or legal update or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the County South Seas redevelopment, rezoning and legal update and public records request. I'll run through this quickly just to give the panel and the community a bit of an update. And I frankly can't remember what was said at the last panel meeting about this, but I guess I should know that because I reviewed the minutes. So I will just go through this quickly. The first thing is that South Seas, the Timbers has sued the CCA. I think I mentioned that in the past for claiming that the 912 unit cap that Judge Schenko enforced and is now under appeal. Their position is the 912 doesn't include hotels. And they've sued CCA for claiming that the 912 in the settlement agreement that was signed in 2003 doesn't include hotels. They are dead wrong about that. The settlement agreement is the 912 comes from the 1973 zoning approval and from the 2002 administrative interpretation, which limited current and future development on South Seas to 912 units. And both those documents, which is the basis of the 912, make it clear that hotels are included 112. There's no dispute about that. And the court, the Judge Schenko, in his findings of fact, determined that the 73 zoning approval and the 2002 administrative interpretation includes hotels in the 912. The Doer judge, in her recent findings of fact, found that the 912 includes hotel units. The county manager of zoning and the county, other county officials have sworn on an oath that the 912 includes hotel units from the administrative interpretation and the zoning approval in 73. And even the chief planner for South Seas at the recent HEX hearing testified that the 912 includes hotel units in the 2002 administrative interpretation. The bottom line is the lawsuit against CCA has no merit. It's going to be dismissed, and the lawyers for CCA are going to seek attorney's fees from South Seas and the South Seas attorney on that. But that decision, the Schenko decision that limits all development on South Seas, is under appeal. South Seas has already appealed it, and the lawyers for the CCA have responded to that appeal in briefs. The county has filed its brief in appeal, and the CCA's brief is due in mid-August. At that point, the court will issue a date for oral argument at some point, and then the court will either affirm or reverse or even remand possibly, but unlikely, but will affirm or reverse the decision of Judge Schenko limiting all development on South Seas to 912 units. That could be heard in 2 months. It could be heard in a year. We don't know the answer to that. The South Seas, in addition to suing CCA, has issued a public records request. I found out that the public records request not only went to the panel, it also went to CEPD and to the city of Sanibel. The city of Sanibel is in the process of responding to it. We retained Jim Lake as an attorney, the panel did, and he's already responded to the request that was made. Everybody on the panel has been aware of his letters to South Seas regarding the record request, and everybody's aware of the documents that were provided to South Seas in response to the request of the panel. It included all minutes, it included all emails that the panel sent out, and it included all documents that relate to community planning efforts on the panel, on the part of the panel that reference South Seas or Timbers or the hearing their application or anything else relating to South Seas. They've gotten all that information. It was about 756 or so pages, and we're completely transparent. We had nothing to hide, and we haven't heard from them since we provided them with those documents. The Dover decision, where CCA claimed that the code amendments that exempted South Seas from any density or Captiva height limits, that was inconsistent with the plan. CCA did not prevail on that, but that decision by the judge in that case, according to our lawyers, was completely wrong, because she didn't take into consideration what potentially could be built under those code amendments. She thought it was too speculative, but the law says you have to look and see what could be built under the code amendments to see if it complies with the plan. Not what was built, but what could be built under those new lenient or new height regulations or new density regulations. And so that case is under appeal, and the county and South Seas has asked for a 30-day extension in responding to the CCA brief on that. And so their response will be due sometime in August. The last thing is that the hearing examiner, who heard the testimony of some odd 60 people opposing the Captiva, the South Seas application to increase their density from 272 units to 628 units. That case, the hearing examiner said she would issue a recommended decision sometime by the end of June. It is now July 8th, and no recommended decision at this point has been issued. That doesn't surprise me. It's complicated. There are a lot of witnesses, a lot of issues that she has to consider. I would rather have her do a good job than a quick job. And so as soon as she issues her recommended decision, that will then be submitted to the Board of County Commissioners, and they will schedule a hearing to decide whether or not they will agree with her recommended decision, or whether or not they will seek to alter it, or whether they will reject it. And that's where we stand at this point with all the South Seas related matters that the CCA is involved in and Protect Captiva. If there are any questions about our public records requests or anything in terms of this report, please ask.
One question on the hearing officers, did she give her report, or she's going to?
The hearing, the hearing that took place at the before Donna Marie Collins, is that what you're talking about, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, she did not issue a decision. In other words, she took all the evidence from all the witnesses who testified, the county, and then South Seas did a rebuttal case after our 62
Right.
after CCA's 62 witnesses and the public witnesses testified. She said she would try to get a decision issued by the end of June, but that decision has not issued. Her decision would be a recommendation in her view of the South Seas application, and whether that application should or should not be granted by the Board of County Commissioners, or whether it should be modified by the Board of County Commissioners. And we have not seen her decision at this point.
If you had to guess, would there be the end of July or, I mean, is it hard to determine that or not?
She said
Hard.
she said she would like it by the end of June. If she could get it by the end of June, the Board of County Commissioners might they don't hold hearings in July, so they might schedule a hearing in August, or it could be in September, depending on when or October, depending on when she issues an opinion. She is the judge in this case, and we have no way of knowing when she will issue it. And as I said a minute ago, I would rather her take her time and do a good job than feel pressured to issue it quickly.
Thank you, Tim.
Any other questions about any of this stuff? I know it's complicated and it's hard to hold on to, but we've said it now so many times, I have a feeling that people get it. Any other questions?
I have a question regarding the boat slips. Does anyone know if they are building them, if they have been built, or?
Okay, at the hearing, what I think Marguerite is talking about is at the hearing for the first time, it was said by South Seas that they were contemplating building boat slips at the T-dock.
Yes.
In the canal, in the waterway that goes from Pine Island Sound into Redfish Pass. So outside, if you come out of the big marina and you make a left turn and there's the T-dock where people used to fish off of, they're talking about putting boat slips out there for rental boats or for larger boats that can't necessarily fit in the marina. And they were talking about somewhere between 75 and 150 slips.
Wow.
Which basically blew people away. It's very unclear, Marguerite, at this point, what's going to happen there, because what they are claiming that they are entitled to a number of boat slips based upon the linear feet that they have along Pine Island Sound and along Redfish Pass area. And so they're claiming they're entitled to something like, and I could be wrong about this, but something like 600 boat slips based on their linear feet. But they had no intention of building that many boat slips. And they were talking about somehow transferring the rights for those slips to other properties outside of South Seas, outside of Captiva, in the same way that you can sell air rights over buildings in Manhattan if you're not going to use them because there's a certain amount of air rights you have to build up. They can transfer these rights for slips in some way to other properties that don't have the right to have boat slips. I don't know how that works or if it makes any sense, but this is what they alluded at the hearing. But in the process of saying they had the right to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boat slips based upon their adjacent property to waterways, they said they would only be interested in between 75 and 150 boat slips at the off that T-dock in between Pine Island Sound and Redfish Pass. And I don't know what status it is at this point, or whether it's being proposed, or whether permits are being proposed. They would have to get permits from DEP. The county would be involved. And so I just don't know where we stand at this point, though it is hard for many people to imagine putting boat slips in that area where people are traversing from the canal that takes you towards the big marina in South Seas and to Redfish Pass. So will be an issue of controversy if and when they decide to do that. But at this point, I'm not aware of any permits permitting it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, other questions regarding all of this legal stuff?
No.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is Mike Bennett and the Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you. I really have nothing new to report for this month. City of Sanibel didn't have any additional information on what might be coming down the pike on some of their road fortification projects. Did have a short interaction with Doug Busby, who is the DOT operations manager for Lee County. I did extend an invitation to Mr. Busby to be a guest of the panel at a future meeting, likely this fall would probably make sense. And he has graciously accepted that offer and would be happy to attend a meeting and answer any questions and explain the status of the project. That's the project at Jensen's Curve, that 800 feet leading up to that. And he indicated the project is still under environmental review at this time. And so we're likely to see no significant progress or changes before we have a chance to talk with him at a future meeting.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else, Mike?
Nothing else.
Any for Mike on this? Okay, Mike, I don't know if you want to do this or you're gonna want me to do this or someone else to do this. I know there was still this issue of the how we're going to protect Santiva from the water that is it's so obviously vulnerable there. I was just driving. Yep. I was driving there the other day, and it was just high tide and a little wind, and water was splashing over the seawall there onto the road. And so I just, as good a job as we do at the Jensen's Curve, if we can't get past Santiva, we're going to be in trouble, right? So
right.
So there is $460 million in grants from DEP for resilience. I don't know if you want to do this or you would like me to do this, but maybe we can call the appropriate people in Sanibel and see if there's a way we can get some of that $460 million to do something like what you're talking about doing at the Jensen's Curve, but doing it at the Santiva area so that we can protect that roadway from water coming over. Because I just, for the life of me, I just don't understand how that's not the weakest link at this point.
I spoke to I tried to speak to the city manager, and he pawned me off to who I think might be the assistant city manager, who indicated that very generally that they clearly have designs for additional resilience projects for Santiva leading up to the Blind Pass Bridge, but had no specific information for me on when or what to expect at this point.
Okay. Would you like me to follow up on that? I can speak to the county manager and see if there's a way we can maybe get some of that $460 million for Santiva.
Sure.
Okay, I will do that. And I'll let you know how that develops. I may
Great.
ask you to join me on that. Okay.
All right. Be happy to.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike from the panel? Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the Stormwater Committee. Jay Brown.
We on June 13th, we had a meeting. Well, maybe I ought to back up for a minute and go a little further back in time. We submitted a proposal to the county to start working on a stormwater management system for the village area of Captiva. And a lot of work on that was done by Kimley Horn, the engineering firm that we're using on wastewater. Kimley Horn wrote up a very lengthy proposal for how they would undertake a consulting study to determine what alternative stormwater management systems might be for Captiva. The county accepted that proposal, got it funded, but determined that this is a project that the county, rather than the panel, this is a project that the county should run rather than the panel. So the county put out a RFP, and through a process of several months, An engineering firm named JMT wound up being awarded the project by the county. We had a meeting with JMT and the county on June 13th to get the project started up. From the county, we had Phil Gilligy, I guess is how you pronounce his name, and he is the operations manager for Lee County Natural Resources. So he attended on behalf of the county, and he's the person that'll be running this project for the county. Then we also had attending from JMT, the two project managers that will be running this project for the county attended the meeting. And then from the panel was me, David Mintz, John Rosen, Linda Laird by phone, Sandy Stillwell, John Wade was there. I think that covers everybody that was there. Oh, and Jeff Powell was there, from the fire department at this meeting. So the first part of the meeting was kind of a debriefing for JMT and the county. What is the current flooding situation that's going on in Captiva? And we had a map at that meeting and showed various places on the map where flooding consistently occurs in the village area. After the meeting, I collected a number of photographs and forwarded them to the consultants, showing areas that in Captiva that were flooding, which were primarily, all of the side streets in the village area, plus several portions along Captiva Drive. Also made the point that a lot of properties were flooding south of the village during significant rainfalls, and that during significant rainfall periods, perhaps about as much as a half of Captiva Drive was being covered by floodwater during significant events. So we went through a long explanation of what the characteristics of Captiva are, the topography of the island, where the various flooding problems are historically. Then the second part of the meeting was devoted to a discussion of how the consultants were going to go about doing this project. And basically what they're going to do is construct a model of Captiva, which will be primarily the village area, which shows on Captiva how much rainfall will flood what areas, of Captiva during certain periods of rainfall. If it rains 6 inches, these areas will be flooded. If it rains 12 inches, these additional areas will be flooded, and so forth. So they're going to construct a model and then subject that model to various levels of rainfall, and then develop a number of alternative ways of how that stormwater, might be, controlled. Then they will do a cost-benefit analysis of each of these ways, and then come forth with a recommendation as to what is probably the best way from a cost-benefit perspective to try to mitigate floodwaters, primarily in the village area of Captiva. The study is going to take about a year to complete, and will conclude with a public presentation from the consultants as to what the best recommended way is to control flooding in Captiva. So there'll be a public presentation on that. So that's how they intend the project to proceed. Then we move to a considerable discussion about, well, how much should the panel and Captiva residents be involved, in this project? The county's position is that this is a county project, and that the county's going to run the project, and will be involved when they have the public presentation a year from now. Several of the panel members, and I guess primarily David and me, just made the point that we ought to have a lot greater involvement in this project as it progresses. Just, seeing it rather than seeing just at a public meeting what, they're going to recommend that we do. The county is going to be having monthly reviews with the consultants, as the project progresses. I made the case that, we ought to attend, or at least maybe I, as head of the Stormwater Committee, ought to attend those monthly meetings. I've written that up to Phil and have not had a response to that, as yet. But I think it's, really important to the success of the project that they be getting feedback, from Captiva residents along the way as this project progresses. So that's what happens. That's where it stands now. David, I don't know if you've had any discussions, with the county on what our involvement should be.
No, other than what was said at the meeting.
Yeah.
I think what we want to avoid is a recommendation that everybody in Captiva will say, "What are you, crazy?" That's
Yeah.
what we want to see happen on Captiva. And so I think it makes sense to have some input along the way. I think they got the message. And
Yeah, I know they got the message. It's just a matter of whether or not, they're gonna listen to us. I mean, it's very clear that the county is very sensitive to, the consultant racking up numerous billable hours by answering, community requests for information or, hearing our ideas. But I think at the very least, we could, attend monthly progress meetings without running up the consulting tab here.
Right, I think they're concerned. I think there was a little bit of a control concern, but I think there was also a fiscal concern. I think they were afraid that, given their budget deficits and everything, the least they wanted, the last thing they want to do is increase the cost of this thing. So Jay will continue to make sure our message is transmitted, and we will go from there. John Rosen, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not a question. I think for clarification, Jay, I think the project is beyond the scope of the village. I think we learned during that meeting. Maybe you want to define the area.
Yeah, well, no, it is all areas of Captiva outside of South Seas. South Seas is not included in the study, but I think though that based on just what I know from flooding and so on, I think the majority of the effort is going to be on the village area because I think that's where the majority of the problem is. But you're right; it's the model will cover all of Captiva, not just the village.
And what I was impressed with the consultants, they had already driven the village area and Captiva immediately after the storm. I think it was early June, and they were aware of the specific areas that were earmarked on the map that had been provided to them. So they're getting a pretty good base knowledge from personal experience of where the flooding is. So it was a good meeting, good first meeting, but I agree with what you and David said. The input on a monthly basis would be very helpful to ensure that what they're addressing are the community's concerns.
Well, and that they come up with a proposal that will make sense to the community.
Thank you, John. Anything else for Jay? Okay, Jay, while you have the floor, wastewater committee.
There's really nothing more to report there, David, other than I continue to try to get from the city of Sanibel the report from the consultant that did the economic study. Every time I write them, they say, we're going to have a meeting in the next few days, Jay, and go through this together. And that meeting never gets set. They are clearly, not focused on wastewater issues at the present time. I think that's understandable because of the whole situation with, South Seas. I don't think Sanibel wants to be perceived as doing something that could result in increased development on Captiva. which a lot of people fear that a central sewer system might do. I don't think they want to be perceived as contributing to that until the South Seas issue is resolved. So I just doubt, David, we're going to make much progress until that happens.
Yeah, Jay, I said at the last meeting that I would have a conversation and see if I could get some more input and insight into this. My conclusion is that there is some concern about the I don't want to say quality, but the scope and the conclusions of the Raptalis study.
Okay.
I think there's some concern that the study doesn't cover and give us the information that we need.
They were hoping it would.
Yeah, they were hoping it would. So I think that's part of the problem. And I think so that's number one. And number two, I think that you're right. There's a set of priorities that are on Sanibel now that this is obviously not the number one priority. But nonetheless, I think it's important at this point for Sanibel and Captiva to get on the same page in terms of timing on this and what's really going to happen so that people can plan as to whether they should get a new septic system or sort of wishful think that sewers are right around the corner, et cetera, et cetera. So I've gotten a commitment that within a short period of time, we'll set up a meeting with
I
Sanibel.
hope your commitments are better than mine, the ones I've received.
I think we'll be able to have a meeting very shortly.
Okay.
And get everybody on the same page and give people on Captiva a realistic sense of what the timing may be on this and what's possible. I think things have changed greatly since we first started this project, which going to be 20 million for the Captiva system.
Oh yeah, well, it's just gotten
for joining up with Sanibel, and now it's a whole parallel system on Sanibel to take Captiva's wastewater with a cost coming closer to $100 million rather than $20 million.
right.
So I think there's a lot we need to make sure we're on the same page with Sanibel. And so I will make sure that we get a meeting together before next panel meeting. And we'll try to do that, Jay, so that you'll have more to report.
Okay, thanks, David.
Marguerite, Development Committee.
Yes, I have nothing new really to report. I have been in touch with Ken. We looked at numbers, at sponsor lists, at the events that we had in the past. I've reached out to a few people, but I cannot present a committee yet. But yeah, so that's the update.
Okay, yeah, and my understanding is that you'll work on that and give us something by August, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
When you say you give us something, you mean with set dates for a fundraiser or?
A plan, whether that includes set dates or not is up to you. But a plan so that we know.
No, there is a plan that's not set in stone, but we definitely want to do the welcome back cruise. And we are talking about additional events too, or an additional event, because most probably we need a few more funds than we needed the last year.
Forward to that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said we look forward to that report.
Yes.
Okay. Nominating committee, Tony, I think Annie, you can unmute Tony. Or Tony can unmute himself. I see he's on the line, but I don't know whether he can speak. I know he was going to be in the car, but I can just tell you that Tony is the chair of the nominating.
David, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. I'm driving, so I might be a little careful here, but I'm okay. Okay, David, I might need a little refresher. How many seats are we trying to fill?
Okay, there are seats for the CCA that you have nothing to do with, that they're going to renominate their representative.
Correct.
There's seats from the CPOA, and they're going to nominate their representatives. My guess is, if I had to guess, they're going to, everybody is up for another term. And I suspect that both the CCA, though I don't know for sure, and the CPOA will probably renominate the existing panel members, since they're all doing a good job. In terms of the panel, there are 2 open seats that the nominating committee has to nominate by October 1st. And you're the chair of that, and there you have a committee. My understanding is that I've already received 2 people who are interested in serving on the panel, which I'll talk to you about after this meeting. And but you would need to have your committee make a recommendation to the panel by October 1st for 2 seats. Tony is gone. He disappeared. Okay, so anyway, he is chairing the committee. By October 1st, he has to recommend to the panel, and it's a recommendation of to fill 2 seats that will be vacated on the panel. And we will make sure I'm sure he'll make sure that he does that. Anybody who's listening now to this meeting, they can contact Ken Gudaham. You have plenty of time that you can contact Ken Gudaham and express your interest in serving on the panel. And you could also send him a resume, and we will make sure that gets to the nominating committee if you're so interested. But that's basically where we are. And we have plenty of time till October to make that happen. Okay, next thing on the agenda is panel members' comments and questions. Are there any comments from the panel members or any questions that we didn't cover?
No.
Okay, in terms of audience comments, I see there's one comment here that came in on a chat. It's from someone named Tracy Scott. It says, "Our Salty Wheels golf cart was parked on a path to Sunset Beach. The head of security called in a UTV to tow our cart. My wife approached him and he told her to remove our Twin Waters day passes that were taped to the windshield. We are timeshare owners. She refused. She stood her ground and he left. Security has become the harassment arm of Timbers." This is the comment that came from one of our people listening to the panel meeting today. And that, I mean, I think, Ken, you're going to get a follow-up from the deputy as to what the procedures are with respect to these issues. Annie, I don't know if you're with us still. Are there any other comments from the community with respect to the panel meeting? Or any questions they may have? Okay, and I don't see any other Q&As or chats. So I apologize to anyone in the community who had a question, and because Ken is not here, hasn't been able to give them to the panel, but I suspect if they were there, Annie would have provided them to us. So seeing no other questions, any other comments from the panel meetings?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
John, you can move and second at the same time.
I'll
I'll
second
second.
it.
Marguerite seconds. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye, please.
Aye.
Bye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We will see you in August, and we all have our assignments before then. I have a couple. I know other people have a couple, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.